Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Kelly Sparks, aka Redbeard. Apologies for my brief hiatus. But this is going to be a two-part review, I guess. First, I'm going to kind of give a quick recap of the third annual Texas Whiskey Festival, and I'm going to give just a brief description on why I like Texas whiskey, and I'm excited about things to come in the future. So, first things first, Texas Whiskey Trail, well, not Texas Whiskey Trail, but the Texas Whiskey Fest, the third annual Texas Whiskey Fest, was a really nice event. I would say they had 15 to 20 different distilleries there handing out samples. It was a really cool little setting. I think it was at Star Hill Ranch. But the biggest, two big drawbacks that I saw for this specific event, and I cannot comment on the previous events, but the first one, if you just so happened to buy a VIP ticket, which got you in at 6:30 p.m., you had a good hour, 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. to walk around and try samples and talk to the distillers and talk to the people about what they were handing out and their products before they let the general admission in. So, will you hush? So at 6:30 they opened it up to VIP tickets, and I just so happened to win one. So thanks, Spencer. Follow the Texas Whiskey Trail on Instagram and you might be able to get one of those one day. But they let the VIP tickets in at 6:30, and I want to say there was, give or take, around 70 people, 50 to 70 people that got to go in at 6:30, and there might have been a little more, but there was a large group at the entrance, and I really want to say it was around 50 people, 50, 60 people. So 50, 60 people got to go in at the same time, and at that point, the lines were so short, you would get a sample, you could literally walk up and within 1 minute you would have a little bitty sample you could try, and you could easily work your way from booth to booth and table to table in a short amount of time. Like I said, there was 15 to 20 distilleries there. Once 7:30 p.m. hit and they let general admission in, I want to say at least another 200 to 300 people, easy 200 to 300 people probably, came in at 7:30. We'll just go on the low end, 200 people. So I would say there was at minimum 250 people at this event, and the setting was cool. It was very rustic feel to it. It had a very rustic, like ranch style, old west style feel to it. But once they let general admission in, you went from a 1 minute wait to a 15-minute wait, 10 to 15-minute wait, depending on what booth you were at. So to me, the biggest drawback was the venue itself. It is not adequate enough for that amount of people. So, my opinion, next year, I would suggest that whoever is running it tries to find a larger venue that's easier to get in and out, because we left early. I went down there with Curtis and his wife, Terry, from the Bearded Idiots. And when we left, you had to zigzag and cut through lines just to leave the venue. My second issue, and I really only had two issues with it. The second issue would be the time of year that they had it. I believe last year they had it during April. This year it was obviously in March, early March. Well, it was outside. All of the booths, all of the tables, the sample tables were outside. So you have all of this whiskey sitting outside. And in Austin, Texas, in early March, it got down to probably 45, 50 degrees that night. I could look it up, but I could look up the exact temperature for that night specifically, but I want to say it was about 45, 50 degrees. It's cold enough, my ears were getting cold, and I wanted to throw up my hood. So, as we all know, what happens to whiskey whenever you chill it? All the flavors get muted. Something that would normally have bad flavors might not present themselves when it's chilled, so it might actually taste better. So here you have an issue where a whole bunch of people, 200 plus people, went and tasted samples of certain whiskeys. They're like, oh, that one's really good. Next thing you know, they go buy it from the store, take it home, drink it at room temperature, and they're not going to be tasting the same whiskey. It's not going to have the same flavors. If anything, it's going to have more flavors. And if it does have bad flavor, then they're going to be more present. So they're going to be like, what the hell did they serve me that night? This tastes like trash. So those are my two biggest issues. Really the only two issues I had. Everything else was great. It was actually, if the venue could just be a little bit bigger and the tables a little wider, or even have a line, here's a sample, here's the line to get a sample, here's the line to talk to the distiller. So they could just run people through who just want to taste it, or you could be over here and you could talk to the guy, because I think that was quite a bit of the hang up. So venue size and being outside, or just the temperature of the whiskey, I mean, it definitely affects how you taste it. That's one of the big things that Jim Murray of the Whiskey Bible, that's the one thing he preaches. So also here in the future, I will be doing all of my whiskey tasting videos using the Murray method of tasting, where I warm it up and I actually have to spit it out. So, and I especially want to do that for blind tastings, because whenever you swallow it, if you swallow enough whiskeys, that's also going to start changing the flavors as well. Good or bad whiskeys are going to start to taste better the more you swallow. So enough about that. I also want to just point out some brands that I personally like, that I would vouch for as far as whiskey goes in Texas. And if you happen to see one on the shelf, it's just my personal endorsement. Starting with Balcones over here, I think they put out a really good product, and they have a lot of varieties. And I think that's one of the big things I like with Texas whiskey. Whereas companies, other bourbon whiskey distilleries in America, they've kind of pigeonholed themselves. They kind of do one thing. Now, some of those companies do one thing great. Wild Turkey, for instance, they have one bourbon mash bill, and that one bourbon mash bill, and they have variations of it through their different releases. And I love all of those. They're all great. But on these small guys here in Texas, they have the ability to try new, unique things, and especially with the fast maturation that you can have here in Texas, you don't have to wait 10 years to see if your product is any good. You can wait 18 months and have a pretty good idea of what direction it's going. But Balcones is a great whiskey. They make a really great product. I have a couple empty bottles here. Garrison Brothers also makes a really great product. A little higher price than what I personally like to pay for, but I have no doubt if you decide to ante up and purchase a bottle of Garrison Brothers, you're not going to be dissatisfied. One of the ones that I like a lot, Tabacero, they make a really good product. They're starting to come out with some new stuff as well. They got their bourbon on the shelf, their 4-grain bourbon, plus they've got their malted rye, and I think that one's as far as distinct tasting whiskeys, their malted rye is probably one of the more distinct, and it's not quite distinct, I would say, like peated single malts from Islay, but as far as a memorable whiskey that is going to taste like nothing else, their malted rye is a good one. Another one, Western Sun, who is predominantly a vodka distiller. They did a small batch run of bourbon, and it's a pretty decent product. So I think it's only going to get better in the future. And then last but not least, Iron Root Republic. Can't say nothing about I can't really say anything more good about the Brothers Gingers. Licorice Brothers up in Denison, Texas. They make a really good product as well. So these are 5 specifically that I would recommend if somebody comes into Texas and you're driving through. I personally think you can't go wrong with them. But it's my opinion. Take it for what it is. Take it or leave it. I really don't care. But that's all I got. So check them out. Thanks for watching. Appreciate everything y'all are doing for me. Thanks for subscribing, all the new subscribers. Thank you to all the patrons. Don't forget, check the description below for links to help out around the house with the bills. Check out the Bearded Idiots. Like always, drink some whiskey, share with your friends and family. Have a nice day. Be safe. Don't drink and drive. We'll see you next time.